Hello there, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Ed Live. Of course, as you see at the bottom of the screen there, this program is dedicated to exposing the deception, the lies of APNU AFC. And I want to speak to two issues tonight. One, I want to address the issue of crime and security, because crime in our country and crime in any country does not single out supporters of one political party, persons of one ethnicity, persons, and in Guyana's context, persons of any economic status in our country. Very, very poor people are being robbed. Very rich people are being robbed. We saw the other day a businessman being murdered cold-bloodedly, by bandits in the Silver Street Kitty while he was conducting his legal business. This is a gentleman who was employing a lot of people and so forth. So I want to address the issue of crime and security in our country. We are in a crisis. That's the reality, and it's something that all of us need to accept as a people. The APNU AFC seem to be living in a bubble, seem to be far removed from reality, to recognize the fact that we're in a crisis when it comes to crime. And well, we're in a crisis in everything. The economy is in a crisis. We're in a crisis when it comes to crime and every other sector or area that you can think about. I also want to speak to the issue of a fallacy, a lie, that the PNC and then the APNU AFC would have been telling Guyanese that they themselves now believe that lie, and that has to do with this fabricated list of 400 young Afro-Guyanese who they claim the People's Progressive Party, while in power, murder. So I want to deal with those two issues tonight, because I think the issue of crime is important to all of us in terms of how it's being tackled. And clearly, there's absolutely nothing happening. So I want to start first and foremost with this issue of crime and security. And I want to start from the point of view of what was promised to the people of Guyana. And that is why I'm saying that the APNU AFC's deception. I'm reading here from a Stabrook News article published on the 2nd of May 2015. And it says the opposition coalition APNU AFC, if elected into office, will develop a comprehensive public security plan that will identify the main causes of violent crimes in Guyana and the mechanisms for their prevention. And this was taken from their manifesto. And it says this. I want to read this paragraph before I get into our discussions. No country can develop its citizens' life if constant fear of criminal attack. No family can be healthy if members are fearful and vulnerable. No entrepreneur would invest funds in an environment rife with crime and corruption. It went on to say, therefore, there is urgent need for the implementation of the long-ignored police reform recommendations to ensure that the police become a well-paid and effective agent for serving and protecting the population, rather than an instrument of oppression as under the People's Progressive Party. So that's the claim of the APNU AFC in 2015. So they said, based on all the security experts that they have, all the retired army heads that they have in their ranks, all the retired soldiers that they have in their ranks, all the retired commissioners of police and other senior officers of the Guyana Police Force, retired, who they have in their ranks, that they had the answer to crime and security in this country. So they're in the business of selling dreams. So they sold the Guyanese people the dream of them making Guyana a safe place. But guess what? It is a lie. And we're living to see that lie today. Every single day you open the newspapers, every single evening you'll watch at the television, at the news, every moment you go onto social media, Facebook, you see incidences of crime. And I want to tie this and I want to address this in the context of the claims of the 400 Afro-Guyanese that they claim the PPP killed. And they always raise the argument, which Granger called the troubled period or something of that sort. And I want to put that into context of what we were facing between 2003 and 2008 as against what we have now, and the failure the complete failure of this coalition. So, like I mentioned earlier, we had a businessman, an honest, hard-working businessman who was making a significant contribution to this country, gunned down cold-bloodedly by criminals. We had a case of the elderly woman in Border, a few days ago who was killed in her home. We had the case of where an APNU AFC councillor, I think it's an NDC councillor, fell victim to the coalition's failure to address crime and security in this country, where he was murdered in his home in a hammock. We had only yesterday reported in the media of a family in Berbice being beaten and robbed. We saw a video only last night, I think it was taken, where young men are robbing people. A young man's phone was snatched. So, after all the claims of having all these security experts in their ranks, and I see Gary Best talking about everything else. Gary Best, the former army chief, he's talking about everything else except security and crime. So he's releasing carbon dioxide all the time into the atmosphere about everything else. He seems to become an expert on everything except crime and security. The fact of the matter is, we are in a situation today in this country where our brothers and sisters are being murdered cold-bloodedly by criminal elements. And you listen to what I mentioned just now, what I read just now from their manifesto of this comprehensive security plan, which turned out to be, as Clement Rohi would have put it, ponies and dogs. Ramjatan deployed a few earlier, in the latter part of 2015 going into 2016, a few policemen on horses in Georgetown and a few dogs. That is his answer to crime and security. That, even though that has now disappeared. Ramjatan is missing. Or I should say the incompetent Kemraj Ramjatan is missing in action. You're not hearing anything from him. The only thing you're hearing from him, he's confident of being the coalition prime ministerial candidate. This is the man that is in charge of crime and of the security sector in this country, who has absolutely nothing to say about our people being murdered on a daily basis, of criminals running rampant, robbing people, and parts of this country which never saw crime to the extent it is now are seeing that. I'm hearing gangs are operating on the Essequibo coast. I'm hearing gangs are operating in Linden, gangs in Berbice, and we know what is happening in Georgetown and Demerara. This, and let me say this to you, brothers and sisters. Whether or not you support the coalition, whether you support the PPP, whether you support any other political party, whether you're not supporting a political party at all, the reality is crime, the high level of crime in this country is not selective. It's falling at the doorsteps of almost every single Guyanese, regardless of which political party you support. Granger in his manifesto said, this is what he said. He said, no country can develop if its citizens live in constant fear of criminal attacks. Is he suffering from amnesia that he can't remember what he said in 2015? We are in a crisis where criminal elements are allowed to roam the streets free, are allowed to conduct their activities, their criminal activities unabated, uninterrupted. While Granger takes most of the Guyana police force in whichever region he goes, and have them protect him. Granger is nothing short of a charlatan, a deceptor, a seller of false promises and dreams. And that's the reality. They have failed the people of this country in every single area. In the area of development, in the area of growth of the economy, in the area of personal growth of citizens, in the area of protection and crime fighting. These are the people who are coming to you now to tell you, oh, give us another chance. To do what? To ensure that the criminal elements continue to operate as they are operating? And I know a lot of people, every time you raise this argument, you hear, oh, but the PPP. Oh, but the PPP. And I'll address what happened between 2003 and 2008. And I'll put it into context. Matter of fact, I should do that now, so that you have an understanding. During in the 2003 and 2008 period, we had a situation where 5 hardened criminals broke out of the Camp Streets prison. They killed a prison warden in the process, and they injured a woman who today is still suffering from those injuries, is still living with those injuries. And they wreaked havoc in our country. They rob and murder our people. The spill-off from that gang was the Fine Man gang, which operated. They took the community, the peaceful community of Buxton, under siege, where the people in Buxton were afraid to speak out because of the criminal elements and the political support they were receiving. So we had a group of criminals, hardened criminals, who were getting the support necessary, political support, the support with training and arms and ammunition and all sorts of things, who were creating havoc. And it is the same political leaders, many of them who are sitting in government today, who hail those criminals as freedom fighters. And I recall Joe Hamilton saying just the other day that they call them revolutionaries. What was the cause they were fighting for? So they were wreaking havoc in our country. So obviously, if you have criminals who are armed, who are getting the support and being supplied with the arms and ammunition, they were creating havoc in our country. That is why that period, you have to see that period in that context. Today, there is no escapee, hardened escapee out there with a criminal gang to the magnitude of those who escaped from the Camp Street prison operating. And even during that period, the PPP government was working assiduously, was giving the police the necessary support. And many of you who can recall the establishment of the JSOG group, the Joint Special Operations Group, which included the Army, the Joint Services. That Joint Services Group was going after criminal elements. Some of them who ended up on the 400 list of the PNC, which I will address a little later. So we have to look at that period in a context. What is the excuse of Granger and Ramjatan today? The other day, I can recall clearly, I think it was the piracy attack in Berbice, when I think 12 persons were killed. When Ramjatan said, well, I don't know what to do. Me know what to do, I give up. That's the man who's supposed to be a minister, at least at that time, and who was heading the security sector, the Ministry of Public Security. He gave up. He don't know what to do. Granger has not been talking about security, has not been addressing the issue of crime in this country. And that is the entire coalition has been doing that. Because they are provided with state security, and the ministers and everybody else now have increased security. So they are safe. They don't care about the average man, about the poor people of this country who are living in fear, who are suffering. That is the kind of people who are coming to you to say, give us a second chance. What? To do what? I ask the question again. To do what? I'm going to open the line. I want to hear from you. Like I said, crime and security. Crime cuts across the political aisle. It cuts across the socio-economic line. Regardless of your economic status, poor or rich, regardless of your political status, regardless of your ethnicity, the criminal elements don't care. Because they know, and I think they recognize, that they have a bunch of incompetents who are hanging on to power illegally, unconstitutionally, who cannot for no reason tackle the crime situation. So the criminal elements feel that they're free, they're having a free reign. They can do whatever they want. Good evening.
Good night, Eddie.
Hi, good night, brother.
Only the gunman, the thief man, them could have gun. Nobody else can have a gun in this country. Soon they hear that you're a businessman, you got a gun, the policeman come and harass you and start up a place with gun. Only the thief man could have the gun. That's what they need to look into.
Thanks for coming through, brother. And that's the reality. You know? The shooting the other day in South, when Granger said, oh, bring them in, don't kill them, bring them in. Any life lost, whether it's a criminal element, somebody suspected of a crime, or a citizen who's conducting his or her business in all the legal manner, is a life lost. But the police cannot come under attack. Citizens cannot come under attack. And if you have a firearm, you should hide it. That is what Granger is telling the people of this country. You have a firearm, you're a licensed firearm holder, you shouldn't shoot. You should wait to arrest. David Granger and his cabal have failed the people of Guyana. And I keep repeating that over and over. What have they done for the people of this country? We are not safe and secure. We are not financially or economically better off. We don't have any improvement really in our infrastructure. Whatever they did is what the PPP left. 4-lane highway, airport, you name it, Sheriff Street expansion. These are all programs that the PPP left. So they did nothing for us, apart from taking our money and put it into their pockets, apart from taking a massive salary increase. And again, David Granger said in his manifesto, I'm going to read that part again for you, right? He said, therefore, there's urgent need for the implementation of the long-ignored police reform recommendations to ensure that police become a well-paid and effective agent. This is the man that took away the joint services 1-month bonus. This is the same man who said in 2015, the 2nd of May, in his manifesto, that he wants to see the police become well-paid agents. Then he took away their money. That's the deception I'm speaking of. He and his cabal took a massive salary increase and gave the police, the joint services, everybody else, a pittance. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening, brother.
Don't be truthful and watching to what you are saying before you talk about Granger.
Let me hear. You tell me the truth.
Talk for 23 years you do before you talk about
No, you tell me the truth. You go ahead and tell me the truth.
Well, we want you got to look and see you move up, then before you go to somebody else.
No, you tell me the truth. I'm giving you a chance.
Some of the people dead from 2000 to jailbreak, it's got right to break all these people out to jail.
Okay. You have that evidence. Why you never gave it to the police?
Yes, they are doing them.
You have the evidence?
Yeah, doing all the wickedness, all the time.
He probably getting, I don't know. These are the people, and I mentioned that they're going to go back. The PPP. Granger and his cabal had 4 years. The leader of the opposition up to the other day said, do a COI. You want to do commissions of inquiry? Do one for the period that you're talking about. Let us find out the truth. But Granger cannot and will not launch a COI. He will not. But there are apologists, like the one who called just now, I don't go back. That's all you can hear from them. Go back, go back. They had an opportunity since 2015 for us not to have to go back, but to bring out the truth. And they failed. They refused. The leader of the opposition repeatedly made the call. Let us investigate the period. Let us launch a COI with a credible international organization that can do an impartial probe into the period, whether 2003 to 2008, whether 2003 to 2015 to 2019, whatever is the period, and let us get the truth. What was preventing and is preventing David Granger from launching that probe? So the gentleman who called just now, so his questions can be answered. They don't want to go back to that period. Good evening.
Hi, good night, Eddie. I think you're doing a wonderful job. And don't worry with some of them work on it. Some of them only talk a pack of nonsense. You could know that they don't have much education. So some of these people, them, you just gotta leave them alone, you know. The amount of damages people do to this country, people have seen it. But anything they put in ignorance in front, excuse me for saying that, right? And don't worry with some of them. You have to keep doing a good job. Don't worry with them. I know PPP do a lot for this country. But, you know, good always come over evil. So have a good night, my brother.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for coming through. So, and the brother's right. Those are the apologists that I spoke about, who will find excuses all the time. All the time they find excuses. Let me give the gentleman the previous, not the one that just called, the one before that. He's talking about the PPP 23 years. In 2015, David Granger promised change. So are you going to measure Granger failure to say, oh, he failed, but the PPP they also failed? I'm just putting that out there. He promised change. He did nothing. He changed it for the worst. And that's the reality. I want to, because time is going, I want to talk about this list, and I think that is what that gentleman was trying to refer to. The PPP did this for 23 years, inclusive of the claim of under the PPP, more particularly under the period of Barajagdio's presidency, 400 young Afro-Guyanese were killed. I'll take this call and then I'll address that issue, and I want to put it again to you. I think I did this before, but I'm going to do it again. Good evening.
Hi, good night, Eddie.
Hi, good night, brother.
Just a little point of view, right? In PPP 20-something years, the Amerindian community, most community have medication, free supply.
Yeah.
What they have it now.
Well, you're complaining. There is nothing there for them.
Just I missed a program. I just finished a program on 6 to 9 with Roman Rupnarine. No medication. The community having no medication. So this is a message for the previous scholar who complained about the PPP 20-something years. Hope you get the message. No medication now. What they having in the 4 years.
Thanks for coming through, brother.
I got thanks.
And I'm just going through Facebook here. I'm seeing 32 minutes ago. Monipur residents run down motorcycle bandits with car, catches one, another escape. That is exactly what I'm speaking of. That is exactly what I'm speaking of. But I want to address this issue of the 400 Afro-Guyanese that they claim the PPP killed. And I'm going to talk about the list in just a minute. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening, ma'am.
I could tell you everything but Walter Rodney, what they do with Walter Rodney. I been living in Georgetown, and they used to pelt him with stick stones when he keep in meetings. And I heard a bomb that day when they assassinate him, right? And now they kill him, they party killing for the APNU, AFC. Huh?
Well, and that's the reality, you know, but I don't even want to go down that road of Dr. Rodney and what happened to him and so forth, right? I think there's a lot of information out there about what Dr. Rodney went through, and
yes, a lot to go through.
a lot.
A lot, yeah.
All right, ma'am. Thanks for coming through. All right? Yeah. So I wanted to talk. I'm trying to find the list here. I have the list. But in the meantime, I'm doing that. I wanna, you know, I wanna dispel this whole fallacy, this whole misinformation, this whole concocted story, this blatant lie by the APNU AFC. Good evening.
Mr. Layne, good night.
Good night, dear.
I want you to give APNU supporters a chance and let them tell you the good life that they are living since 2015.
Well, I asked one of them just now, but he couldn't.
Okay?
Thanks for coming through. Yes. So, the list that they're claiming of 400 Afro-Guyanese being killed under the PPP. The first thing, when they did the dossier that they circulated to international organizations and so forth, they claimed that the period they were killed was under the Barrett Jack Dio presidency, which is from 1999 to 2011. But when you look at the list of people that they have there, it started from 1993. The very first name on their list, and I guess the older folks will know the story, of Monica Reese. Could you imagine Monica Reese? They put her on a list. This is an insult to the families, friends, and relatives of that young lady who was killed in 1993. They put her on the list as one of the persons who were killed by extrajudicial means. They put on that list the innocent people who were slaughtered in Agricola by criminal elements who were robbing them. They put on that list the names of the people of the Lusignan massacre, innocent people who were sleeping in their homes who were slaughtered by criminal elements. They put on that list the names of the people who were slaughtered in Bartica during that massacre, cold-bloodedly by criminal elements. They put on that list the names of the people who were slaughtered by criminal elements in Lindo Creek. They put on the list the people who were businessmen, who were killed during robbery. They put on the list the criminal elements, including the escapees, Lyndon London Blackie. And we all know the shootout right here in Eccles, where Lyndon London Blackie had almost a 24-hour stand down with the police when he was killed. This is a criminal element who robbed and murdered people in this country. We have Feynman, Rondell Rollins. We have Troy Dick, Dale Moore. These are the criminals who broke out from the Camp Street prisons. We had the whole of Feynman gang. We have, and they said 400 Afro-Guyanese. You have more than 100 and something Indo-Guyanese on that list. Probably another 40 non-Afro-Guyanese, whether Portuguese, on the list. They have the policemen. This is another insult to the relatives of the lawmen who gave their life. They gave their lives to protect the lives of citizens, and they were killed by criminal elements. The PNC put those people on the list. If you go on my Facebook page, you're going to find the list there. I highlighted most of the names. They have on that list, and I think Egil the other day said he met one of the persons, spoke with the person who's on that list as someone who was killed by extrajudicial means. The tape is being circulated. We know who diverted the police from crime scenes, from when crimes were being commissioned. We know during that period who was the commissioner of police, Winston Felix. The PNC should ask Winston Felix to answer those questions. We know who was the head of the army during that period, when guns and ammunition were missing from were going missing from the camp in Ghana. People who are now in the executive and the hierarchy of the PNC. But you're blaming the PPP of involvement somehow in killing 400 young Afro-Guyanese. But you have not launched an investigation after close to 5 years. What prevented you? If you believed so much that the PPP killed these people, there was all these extrajudicial killings. You decide to launch an investigation into Lindo Creek to lay blame on the security forces. For whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe because you want to justify taking away their bonus. Maybe you want to demoralize them so that your criminal enterprise can operate. So you do the Lindo Creek investigation. You get Trotman's father, Raphael Trotman's father, to do the investigation, and you lay the blame on the security forces. But you forget all the other crimes that you claim. The other, 8 persons in Lindo Creek? You forgot the other 392 murders that you claim the PPP somehow were involved in. You forget them completely. All right? I'm going to take this call. Let me just move this over here. Oh, I think I missed that one there. I think Sis wanted to make a contribution from the US. But the point I'm making is that the whole claim of 400 young Afro-Guyanese being murdered by the PPP is a fallacy. It's a lie. It's a concoction which the PNC has been using for the race baiting campaign. And they continue to race bait. They're going to come to you again and they're going to talk about 400 young Afro-Guyanese killed and about how the PPP marginalized Afro-Guyanese and all sorts of things. You know why? Because they can't come to you with more promises. They failed. They failed miserably. So they're going to come now to try to raise bait, to divide our people. To say Afro-Guyanese should not vote PPP, to allow the PPP back in power because the PPP killed 400 young Afro-Guyanese. Despite not being able to justify it, despite failing to investigate it. Again, I will join with the leader of the opposition and call on David Granger to launch a commission of inquiry or to hire an internationally recognized agency or firm to conduct an impartial commission of inquiry into the claims of 400 young Afro-Guyanese being murdered or into the claims of what he called a troubled period. Good evening.
Hi, good night.
Hi, good night, dear.
I'm a PPP, you understand? But what you're talking about there, where you come out from? Where you come out from? Because what are you trying to tell younger generation? That you will know about the Radican and what the PPP done before?
You know about it?
Yes.
Well, tell us now.
The thing that what the PPP...
No, don't tell me things. Tell me what you're to be specific.
Be specific?
Yeah, be specific. You said you know. Tell us, be specific. Don't come and tell me you're a PPP and you know what the PPP did. Tell us, you tell us. She's gone. She's gone. I gave her a chance to tell us. And that's the thing. I gave her a chance. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
You know, from day one, you have been fighting down the British government. That is what causing all the ground.
So we causing the problem.
Yes.
So Granger failed to address crime. Granger failed to grow the economy. Granger failed to develop housing schemes. Granger failed in every area. You're blaming us? How we caused this? Granger gave you all a fancy plan in 2015 and he failed.
You can't because telling all these
So you want us to sit in a corner? Do you want us to sit in a corner and allow? So you want us to sit in a corner, ma'am? I'm asking you a direct question. You want us to sit in a corner and allow crime to continue to spiral, to allow the economy to be destroyed, to allow our people to suffer, to praise Granger for his failure for in every area? Could you believe some people in this country? Could you honestly believe some people in this country? Good evening.
Hi, Ed.
Hi, good evening, dear.
Good evening. You're right. We must sit and take everything that the APNU wants to do to us. Because we decide to protest and everything is being done in a proper manner with respect to everybody, right? Because we doing that, we are being bad talk and insulting, and all the problems that this country have right now is PPP causes, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, here what? It's time for we stop taking the SHIT and stand up for ourselves, because when we go out there, we don't go out for ourselves. We go out for our children, our parents, our family members. We go and stand up for them. So all those who got problem with PPP, right, they must come to front, just like how we come to front with our problems and address it. They must come to front just like that and address it. Don't got a set of nonsense to talk and they don't have no facts behind it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming through. So, I'm giving people are calling and saying the PPP did this thing. One woman saying we fighting down the government. We fighting down Granger since he gone in power. So we want to say, we prevent Granger. Granger cut the budgets from 2011 to 2014 to basically strangle the PPP government of Donald Ramutar. Granger ain't get no cut budget since he gone in power. Granger get full budget. Granger get everything. But Granger failed. He failed in the army, I understand, and now he's a failure as a president. How are you blaming the PPP? The PPP has been out of office for more than 4 years. What are we supposed to do? Sit in a corner and say, and clap applause for Granger as he go along destroying our country? Could you believe some people? We're fighting him down. The other one said that she's a PPP and she has information, she knows. I asked her to tell me and she cut off. Good evening. I think I lost our one there. We have just what? About how much? About 2 minutes more? So we're going to take probably 2 more calls or so and then wrap things up. But the fact of the matter is we're in a serious situation. And I want to say to the people of this country that you have a clear choice to make. Good evening.
Hi, son. Good night.
Good evening, dear.
I am so happy you talk about Monica Reed. And there's so much that you said, and that up to the other day, I remember her. I remember that incident. And I'm in my 60s, and I can remember all those things that you talk about. I can remember them. And, you know, the 33 years that they're talking about, what the PPP did in 23 years is what they got in 4 years. The PPP worked very hard in 24 years before they can accumulate their house or land or whatever vehicle they got. Now, it's only 4 years, and look how much they got and the family relatives got.
That's a whole different story
and
there.
so many things. And next thing, I know PPP never lose an election. And I can remember vividly the last election, when you go to supermarket, you go to any market or any place to buy anything, everybody saying that election would be rigged. And indeed, it happened. Look, during boredom days, what we went through, I can remember up to the other day, I tell them, we had to run from school during the day. 6 of my relatives died.
Wow.
My brother and my cousin were in the GDF. They used to ransack all the houses in the area. And many Indians died during that time. We had to line up to get groceries. They were hard. They are killing you. And Indians were the victims. They were not getting groceries. during that time, with my boy, I can remember people used to walk and ask for food and the house people came from Wisma. I can remember those days. In the night, we used to run when they used to come to kill us. We used to run. My grandmother used to cry. She couldn't even walk. She used to run on the mud dam to hide from these people. We went through a lot in those days, and we don't want that 28 days to come back.
Thank you so much for coming through.
4 years, and look what we're going through.
I know.
Look what we're going through in the 4 years. It's very heartbreaking to know what we're going through. Many business people take off their business. Many of them. We're not getting food. Look, yesterday, a boy was saying, a pilot was saying
Just get
3 people followed him. 3 people were following him. When he looked back, he said, "Why are you following me?" They said they want something to eat.
Wow.
What is really going on is in this country, those people are calling you, cut them off right away, because they are the persons that are getting
the good life. All right.
Good life.
Thanks for coming through, ma'am. All right, so this is where we have to wrap things up, but I want to tell you the choice is clear. The choice is clear. The APNU AFC have failed Guyana. They've been a failure, and they will continue to be a failure. The People's Progressive Party has a youthful, a team that is a mixture of youth, intelligence, and experience, and we are prepared on March 2. We ask you to vote for us so we can take this country forward. Until next week, I want to thank you for being part of the program. Remember to vote People's Progressive Party Civic come March 2nd, 2020. Bye for now.